Hi, I'm Ian from C.A.L.M and Hypnotherapy, and today's video is going to be about agoraphobia and about how it relates to driving. So many people think that agoraphobia is linked to a fear of wide open spaces, and although it can be, it's more common for it to be linked to a feeling of that there's no escape, so a feeling that you're trapped. And that can be linked to driving, but it can also be experienced in many other parts of life, maybe in a busy supermarket, standing in a queue, in a meeting, in maybe like a crowd. Maybe you're watching like a sports event or something like that, and there's loads of people around you, and there's a feeling that there's no escape from here. It can be when you're in the cinema. Many people that we've helped have talked about having to sit on the end row of the cinema, so that they know that there is an escape. And in driving, it can be related to busy roads. It can be related to things like tunnels and bridges. So we think about a situation, maybe joining a motorway. So you're on the slip road and you're joining a motorway, and you know that once you're on that motorway, that there's really no escape. Once you're on, you're committed. It's not like on a B road or a local road that you can just pull over, and there's always a side road, or there's always somewhere that you can stop safely. On a motorway, the junctions are really, really far apart. And once you're on there, you're traveling at speed and you've got to force to keep up with the flow. So this can trigger the fight, flight, freeze response in agoraphobics. Another example might be a dual carriageway, where you're thinking about overtaking maybe a lorry, and you're up alongside that lorry, and it kind of like feels really, really, really overbearing, and like you're trapped. You haven't got the safety that you've got on the left-hand lane of having wide open space around you. Tunnels and bridges. Obviously, once you're in a tunnel, everything like darkens. You're in artificial light, and there's no escape. The only way that you can go is forwards, right? You can't go sideways, and the same on a bridge, right? Once you're on a bridge, maybe like a long bridge, we've helped so many people overcome anxiety of the QE2 bridge in Dartford, and that's really high to begin with. As you go up, once you're on it again, there's no escape. Once you're on it, you've got to go. Other driving related scenarios are things like driving far away from home. So the further you get away from home, it's like, oh God, right, how do I get back? It's further for me to travel to safety. And then also situations where maybe that you're driving on unfamiliar roads and you're on your own. Once you're driving on your own, then you're in control. There's no one there to help you. So all those situations are kind of quite specific to driving, but they can, like I said, come in other situations where there's crowds, or where there's things like a lift or something like that as well, where there's no escape from there. But this fear, it's not linked to the driving itself. It's linked to another situation. It might be a panic attack that's happened when you're driving, okay? Or very commonly, there's a root cause behind this that has nothing to do with driving whatsoever. I can think of a few different examples, but one of them that really springs to mind is a client that we helped to overcome her driving anxiety, and hers was specific for motorways and unfamiliar roads. And then she shared with me, when she was a very, very young girl, she was trapped inside like a blanket box. They were playing as children, and then somebody sat on top of the blanket box and then wouldn't let her out. And from that moment, then she developed this fear of feeling trapped, that there's no escape. So what's happening there is that when you're that translates to when you're on the motorway, that feeling that there's no escape will then trigger your fight, flight, freeze response. And that will cause for adrenaline, stress hormones to be entered into your body. And that's the familiar feeling of increased heart rate, increased breathing rate, maybe sweaty. Basically, your brain is responding to an imagined threat. And the only way that our brain can deal with a threat, whether it's a real threat or imagined threat, is in exactly the same way, which is releasing hormones which will help you to either fight this thing or flee this thing, or in some cases you would just freeze if it's so overwhelming. Things that really don't work very well with agoraphobia is exposure therapy, right? So you might be a situation where many people are going, oh, just go ahead. The more you do it, the more you'll get used to it. But very, very seldom does that work, right? Your brain is trying to keep you safe. It believes that that specific driving situation is a threat. The more you do it, it doesn't necessarily calm it down. Very often it has exactly the opposite effect. It's like you're doing that thing I'm trying to keep you safe from. So the symptoms will get worse and worse and worse, right? It's a bit like trying to touch a hot stove and then thinking the more times you touch that hot stove, the less pain that you're going to be in. Well, no, you're going to be under probably more pain because you're going to have blisters on top of blisters on top of blisters. And it's the same kind of thing with driving. The more you expose yourself to it, the more that your brain is going to try and keep you safe from it. So the greater the physical sensations are likely to be when you're doing it and when you're preparing for it as well. But thankfully, we have got a proven 90-day program, and it's called the C.A.L.M.S Method. And we've helped so many people with agoraphobia to overcome it so that they can live life on their terms and drive wherever they want to go without living their life by being defined by this one thing. So I'm going to include links below in the description. So if it's something that you want to do, you can either use the link to book a consultation or just to look through the website and have a look at my case studies and reviews.